You know, I'm designing this course at the moment, this program for therapists on how to run their business. And one of the things that keeps coming up is how scared therapists are of money. Why are they? Why are therapists so scared of money? It just comes up constantly. And sometimes, like, people will say it kind of directly, and sometimes it's dressed up as something else, you know, whether it's fees, cancellations, guilt about charging, guilt about not charging, guilt about thinking about money at all. It's like, I don't know, it's like money walks into the room and half the profession just quietly leaves. They don't like it.
I mean, to be honest with you, I've always thought it was incredibly impressive. A group of people who spend their entire working lives talking about avoidance have actually managed to build an entire culture around avoiding one particular subject with Olympic level skill.
I mean, yes. It's so true. Oh, dear. And yet, like, but they'll tell you it's about ethics or care or like not wanting to exploit people who are vulnerable, which is all true in principle.
Is it?
But it doesn't actually explain the like sheer panic response that people seem to have. That, you know, that kind of tight chest and the wobble in their voice when fees come up. The apologising. This is the big one. Apologising before anyone's even complained about them.
But this is it. I mean, this ethics explanation you're talking about, nonsense. Absolute nonsense. You know, it's doing so much heavy lifting. Because when you think about it, it's ridiculous, right? Because most professions that deal with vulnerable people still manage to send invoices.
Of course.
Without needing, you know, a lie down afterwards because they've done it. You know, surgeons, for example, aren't whispering their prices into their sleeves like it's a dirty secret. Neither are dentists or lawyers or doctors. Like, no.
Oh, nor is Tesco.
I have grave problems with your people. You know this already.
I do. I'm probably inviting
and their
my
attitude
own...
to money.
I mean, it's, well, yeah. The thing is, you're right. This thing of surgeons and lawyers, exactly. You know, and therapists they're not unusually greedy or heartless.
No, quite the opposite.
Well, exactly. But this is when they're charging properly. Most of them are undercharging, right? And they're undercharging and overworking, and as a result, naturally, quietly resentful as a result. You know, it's said as a result twice there. But that resentment...
Oh, why do I have no money at the end of the month?
Right.
Because you don't charge enough, darling, that's why.
Yeah. Put the
anyway,
prices
go
up.
on, I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, it's all right. So I've rage bit you, like rage beating. The minute I start talking about therapists and money, right? Because we're a profession. Anyway, that resentment that we're talking about, that I was just talking about then, you know, all right, it might not be right here in front of us, but it then does leak out sideways and in ways that maybe they don't notice, you know. Fatigue or irritation. My God, how snappy do people get? Or, I don't know, blurred boundaries, that kind of, you know, that brittle kind, like, you know exactly what I mean, I think, when I say that
exactly what you mean.
Brittle sort of cheerfulness, that it seems
it's
kind.
so nice to see you.
Isn't it wonderful? But it's not actually kind. You can tell on the receiving end that it's not kind at all, can't you?
Yeah, you can. And I think behaviourally, it's a total mess of mixed signals, right? Because on one hand, you've got, you know, therapy positions itself as care and attunement and presence, right? But on the other, whether you like it or not, and I know most of you don't. I know you love money, and that's probably why we get along. But, you know, it's a transaction, whether you like it or not. It's a transaction. You know, if you don't integrate those two ideas very early on, you end up with this sort of internal civil war. And one part of you wants to help, and the other part wants to pay the rent, obviously, you know. And instead of negotiating, you know, these two parts of you just glare at each other as if, you know, they're enemies on different sides of the room.
Right, exactly. That conflict is there, isn't it? And nobody teaches therapists how to reconcile that.
No,
you know?
they don't.
Because training programs... Well, until now, because, well, you know that I'm really passionate about this, about therapists charging what they're worth, how, much training. Anyway.
Well, you can lead a horse to water, Helen.
Well, yes. Well, if they choose not to drink, that is up to them. But, it's interesting, really, because training programs will talk endlessly about transference and countertransference. So much rage bait right now. But money is never really discussed, or it's treated like a kind of slightly embarrassing uncle that nobody really wants to sit next to at Christmas. It's
yeah, you're all so embarrassed, which is so odd, because money. I mean, I love money. You know that. My entire makeup
and
is about money.
There's nothing morally wrong with that either.
No,
just
there's
to point
not.
out, yeah.
But the thing is, money is one of the most reliable projective surfaces that we've got.
Right.
People bring all sorts of things to it: power. Shame,
such a great
dependency, entitlement, fear of abandonment, all of this. And you'd actually think therapists would be fascinated by that.
Oh, absolutely, because this is a really rich place, and they are, but only when it's the client's money story. I'll sit and talk about your money situation with you and your feelings around money, but when it's their own, suddenly curiosity is evaporated. And what I see clinically is that money kind of triggers this kind of moral contamination anxiety. Said that wrong. Contamination. That is the word, isn't it? Contamination anxiety.
Contamination, yeah.
Apparently I've lost the ability to speak because we're talking about money.
Because we're talking about money, exactly, yeah.
I'm contaminated. But if I care about money, then maybe I don't care enough about my clients. And sometimes clients can reinforce that, right? But if I charge properly, then maybe I'm not a good person. I've had that said to me before, that I'm morally corrupt.
And I guarantee you've had it said to you not by clients, but by other therapists. Yeah, because it's a very classic false equivalence,
Right.
That you have this caring about money, and it gets conflated with exploiting people. It's the most ludicrous argument. It's
also
the
really
same,
insulting.
It is, because it's the same logic that says, if you enjoy your job, then you're somehow less serious about it.
Oh, yes, you must have to suffer.
You must have suffered, and it's as if virtue, which therapists are
Calm, rein it in.
very good at virtue signaling. Virtue requires a bit, suffering to be legitimate.
100%. I see that all the time. That if you enjoy it, if you're making money out of it, then you're morally corrupt somehow. And there's, I think actually there's a very specific cultural layer to it too. In the UK especially, and I don't know about the US, obviously, but in the UK especially.
The US love talking about money.
I know, they're just like, I earn this much and I'm fabulous. And you and I probably fit in quite well there, really, wouldn't we?
Would. That's the thing.
Until they started licking their butter knife or something, but there we are. But, but in the UK, though, talking about money is just already awkward, isn't it? We don't do it openly. And then add in therapy, which attracts a lot of people who are conflict adverse anyway. I know you've already mentioned the therapists, and relationally oriented. And then you get this kind of perfect storm, because they'd rather do almost anything than have a clean adult conversation about fees. It's nuts.
Including inventing elaborate internal narratives about why this particular client is a special case. I've seen that too.
Oh, gosh,
and,
yes.
Why now is a bad time to raise fees, or why stability is somehow going to arrive magically without ever making a decision.
Right? And then they wonder why they feel trapped. Right? They'll say, I love my
poor.
work. The greatest sin. Well, but stay with it. They'll say things like, I love my work, but I'm stuck, or I'm writing this course. It's just bringing so much to light. This idea, I'm exhausted, and I don't know why, or I'm starting to dread sessions. And when you look closely, there's often a money issue sitting, maybe not so quietly, but quietly underneath, unaddressed, kind of slowly doing its damage, but very efficiently too.
Massively efficiently, and from a behavioral point of view, the thing is, undercharging is a very, very effective way. And your viewers and listeners are not going to like this, but it is a very effective way of signaling low confidence, even if you don't
100%.
intend to. 100%. Because humans are exquisitely sensitive to price as a proxy for value. We call it the price quality bias. The higher, the more we pay for something, the better quality it must be. So if you tell me that your work is transformative and life-changing, but you're charging less than my cleaner, no, then my brain has a big problem to solve, and I don't believe you because you're too cheap.
I have talked about this so many times, but
right.
I don't know. It's just such an uncomfortable truth for therapists to hear, but it's so important. It's so important. Clients don't consciously think less of you. Like, they don't think, oh, you're cheap, therefore you must be bad. But something in the dynamic shifts.
Yeah, well, my clients would.
Maybe my current clients would too. I don't know. But
yeah, they would.
I mean, I could give a little anecdote of seeing somebody who reduced their fee because I was going to see them online, and I kind of was like, why? I'm paying for you, not your room. And
you didn't go to them, though, did you?
No, I didn't. Because of that. Literally because of that. Because it just said to me, I don't value myself.
Right.
And that was the end of the conversation. I don't want to be with that as a therapist, as a client, Right. But when you start going in these spaces, the work can kind of start to feel less contained, less serious, more porous even. And boundaries then start to soften in places they absolutely shouldn't. And it's dangerous.
And then you have therapists then who, they try and fix that with more effort or with more availability or more emotional labor, more flexibility, all of this sort of stuff, which is exactly the wrong lever to pull. Exactly the wrong lever to pull.
Right. Yes. And they think that the answer to kind of feeling undervalued is to give more.
Which is ludicrous.
Which makes no logical sense at all to me, but there we are. But when actually the system is already signalling that what they give isn't being properly held, right? Yeah. Because money is part of the frame. It's not separate from the work. It's one of the things that makes the work possible, if not the entirety of what makes the work possible. Because if you're not being paid for your time, you've got someone else supporting you financially, so you don't need to be paid. So money is always there.
I always say to people, who struggle with this sort of thing, it's like, oh, right, okay, well, if you love it so much, and it's all about morals and ethics and virtues, why are you charging at all? Why are you not free?
Right.
Because, if you're charging whatever it is, 40, 50 pounds an hour, and you're finding it difficult to live.
How much did that hurt you to say out loud?
I mean, I have no concept of charging that amount of money.
I don't open one eye for that.
You wouldn't even get a phone call with me for that.
I mean, are we going that high? Anyway, carry on.
The thing is, what is the difference ethically between charging 50 and 100 and 150 and 200 as opposed to free? There's also the professional identity issue as well,
Yes.
Of course, a lot of therapists didn't come into the field seeing themselves as business owners, but I've got news for you. If you do not work for the NHS, you are a business owner. End of story.
Health. Yeah, like if you're
or
in
whatever,
private practice, essentially.
If you are not an employee, you are a business owner.
Yes.
You know? And of course, you know, we come in to care for people or heal people or personal meaning.
Well, so does a surgeon.
But exactly, you know, and the thing is, but your industry in particular frustrates the hell out of me.
I know.
As you can tell. It's because you framed this moralistic...
Could you not point it at me?
Well, not you now, because you've been fixed, but...
Oh, God. Okay.
There's this whole idea that, you know, and as you said at the beginning, it's all, you know, they hide behind ethics and morals and stuff like... I'm trying very hard not to swear. You know, there's this
It's
idea
all right, it's
that
my
business...
one, you can swear.
There's this idea that business feels grubby by comparison, like it belongs to someone else.
Oh, absolutely. Because, yeah, I don't do the business side of things. I don't do
Right,
that.
well, why the
Right?
not?
It's going to fall out at some point, isn't it? But,
Yeah.
I mean, and yet the reality just doesn't care how you feel about it. Because if you're self-employed, you're running a business whether you like it or not, as you said, right? And pretending otherwise doesn't make it kinder or purer. Actually, it's just going to make it more chaotic and confusing.
Yeah, it does. But here's the thing, you know, chaos in your world, and I don't mean your clients. This is directed absolutely at the therapists. Chaos has a very funny way of showing up as martyrdom, you know?
I'm just going to take some cover.
It has. Yeah, now, I've noticed a tendency for people in caring for professions in particular to wear their financial struggle almost like a badge of honor. I mean, I don't get it. This is so alien to me. And it's as if being broke and not being able to afford stuff proves that you're doing it for all the right reasons. Which is just
I'm afraid I'm
unbelievable to me.
in a terrible position where I have to agree. And, but it's deeply unhelpful, right?
Deeply unhelpful.
Deeply unhelpful because it just keeps people locked in a... Right, I'm just going to side quest for a moment. How are you convincing your clients to take themselves seriously, to value themselves when you don't do it yourself?
Absolutely. Totally agree with that.
Ugh, right?
You're essentially saying to your client, I'm not actually worth more than this.
Yes. And actually, you're saying to them, and nor are you. What are we modelling when we don't charge our worth? Anyway, and the other side of it is, of course... The thing is that, you know, when you get locked in these systems, it's kind of quietly harming both you and the client. And then financial stress... I mean, we all know what it's like. Well, you might not. I'm very familiar with financial stress and how it can narrow your thinking because you become tunnel visioned on making enough to get by or to do.
It's traumatizing.
Right? Yeah.
And all of you people who deal in trauma should know this. Anyway, go on. I
was going to say it a bit more kindly. Something similar, but more kindly. That's why I'm a therapist and you're not.
Yeah, exactly.
The empathy,
100%.
The sugarcoating,
100%. Yeah.
You know, when we're under financial stress, you know, it narrows your thinking and it reduces patience and it makes you risk averse, but in the wrong places, and reckless in others. And that is a terrible framework to be working clinically. It's not neutral in any way, shape or form.
No, it's not. You know,
it's dangerous
because it also makes people weird about clients' money. You know, so if you're anxious about your own income, you're going to start monitoring other people's ability to pay in a way that's frankly intrusive and most likely inaccurate. So, because what happens is you start to manage their finances.
Yes.
So, you're starting to decide what they can afford. So,
Right.
it's almost like you're trying to rescue them from a conversation that they didn't actually ask to avoid in the first place. So, as you lot love to say, you're projecting.
I was about to say, who's actually being rescued in that conversation?
Yeah, exactly,
You know? This is just it. The idea that you're, I see it all the time. Therapists kind of preemptively discounting for clients who haven't said a word about money. And, people can't afford it, or that's up to them. Don't
how do you know?
choices.
You haven't asked for a start.
Right.
You've just
I
went,
know
well, the best price I can do is...
Right.
Nobody's going to say, oh, no, charge me more.
No, I want to pay you more. No. I mean, I do know someone who put their prices up. I have to be very careful. I don't want to be identifying. But put their prices up on hearing, I think it was about 4 clients in a row, talk about their very nice holidays they'd just been on. And it was like, I can't even afford one.
Good.
So they
Good.
did. And I was like...
But it shouldn't have taken that.
No, it should not have done, But it's kind of, when people are doing that projecting thing, it's a kind of mind reading, isn't it?
It's arrogance.
Hugely, like the empath thing, but let's not get started on that.
Arrogance.
Oh my God, to pause now. Just put the dam in there, beavers to the work. But it's mind reading that feels compassionate, but actually, as I said, it's really about the therapist's discomfort. They're rescuing themselves and not the client's need.
Because you're robbing the client of agency. You're deciding on their behalf what's possible, which is ironic given how much therapy talks about empowerment.
I mean, right. And there's another
I know
layer.
this sounds like a therapy bashing session from me, doesn't it? And you know what it is in a way? It is in a way.
He's owning it.
Not
That's all we
therapy,
can ask
therapist.
Everyone. What about mentality that we are taught as therapists? The conditioning. Can we change it to that maybe? Just make it... Because it is social, Because many... No. Well, there's another layer to it. As in
how do you explain you then?
What do you mean?
You don't charge anywhere close to £60 an hour.
No.
So... if it was mental, social conditioning, why haven't you been socially conditioned?
Well, I will never forget sitting in that lecture hall or room and towards the end of my training where I was about to be qualified, and one of the cohort asking something about charging and money, and the tutor saying, nobody goes into therapy to make money. And I remember internally going, excuse me, what the fuck? So there you go, I dropped it. But I just remember being horrified that I was on my 3rd of 4 years, but I could start practicing after this 3rd year. And they were suggesting I don't make very much money. I literally did it to make money because I had children to feed and to birth myself, and obviously, and I like pretty things, as you've said. And I just never bought into the idea that I shouldn't be allowed to have money from it.
And yet you complied and charged stupid amounts for years.
I did to start with, and then you came along, and my whole world changed.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that I'll never forget. So I was like, you're charging how much? No.
Do you remember
We're going
the
to
phrase
triple
you
that
said to me?
immediately. No, I don't remember the phrase.
We might have to edit this out. But the phrase was, I don't have poor friends, Helen, put your prices up.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
It was so funny. And I remember... But yeah... The thing is, I'm going to go back to this because either we could go down this, we'll end up hated. But there is this cultural layer to it too, right?
Yeah,
because many
is,
therapists will grow up in... Yeah, I mean, apart from that social kind of therapists don't earn money, many therapists will grow up in families where money was kind of tense or loaded with shame or...
So do other professions.
Absolutely. And I see a lot of clients that have huge shame around what they earn. Huge. I mean, I'll tell you later, not here. But therapy doesn't just magically...
Yeah, it works both ways. You know, you're talking about your high-earning clients, right?
Yes,
Who's shame around that.
Yeah.
I see that too. So,
Isn't
I mean,
that
shame is
interesting?
not... Shame doesn't simply sit with people who have no money. It also sits with people who have huge amounts of money. It's just a different kind of shame, but it's the same underlying reason. Yeah.
Well, it's because it separates you, doesn't it? You don't belong.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole... We could go into...
It is a whole thing, yeah.
Yeah. But the whole thing, you know, the idea that when you have therapy training that you kind of magically get rid of all this shame around money.
Of course you don't. Yeah.
You know, it doesn't do that. Of course not. I mean, if anything, as you've said already, kind of really, it gives people a very sophisticated vocabulary to avoid looking at their own patterns, their own behaviour.
Yeah,
right?
This is the thing. I mean, you can psychoanalyze your way around a problem indefinitely if you're clever enough. Insight doesn't automatically produce the behavioural change. And to be quite honest with you, sometimes all it produces is just a particulate stasis chamber.
Oh, God. I mean, that's painfully true. You know,
it is true.
It is. What actually shifts things is doing the thing you're avoiding in a measured... I mean, this is like exposure therapy, really, isn't it? In a measured, contained way. Yeah. I mean, that's basically what you did to me with my prices, isn't it? Exposure.
Yes.
Yeah. And now here I am, and it's fine.
No, it's too high, it's too high. You're not putting them down again.
No, you will not. I will chain you. Oh, God, nobody's going to take us serious. But we are actually genuinely serious. This is a really serious
Massively serious.
thing.
It's a hugely serious topic.
You know, and it's really easily, that shame is really easily challenged, that conditioning, just by doing this exposure therapy in a really measured, very contained way. Just saying your fee clearly and holding it without apology, not apologising anyway. Yes, this is my fee. And letting the client respond however they respond and trusting that you can handle that. You know,
this is the thing.
It.
But it is it, because it's a confidence issue. It's not a greed issue. You know, what you're doing is, and this blows my mind, you know, you're signalling when you do that you believe your work has value. And that you're comfortable standing behind that. When you do the opposite, you're actually saying to your client, yeah, my work has no value, that's why it's cheap. I am the Tesco... What's the cheap Tesco brand?
Oh, value? Price? Value?
Well, okay, fine. Whatever.
I don't know.
They don't have a cheap brand in Waitrose, so I don't know.
Yes, they do.
I'm not
they have
familiar.
Waitrose own. You just don't buy it, that's all.
Well... you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Know, the thing is, though, but most clients, and I know you know this from experience now, find that actually reassuring, not exploitative.
Sure, right? And then the ones who don't aren't wrong or bad. They're just not a fit. That's okay.
They're just not your client type.
That's okay. Exactly. That is another thing, though, that therapists really struggle with. The idea that not everyone is meant to work with them at their fee, in their way. I am not the therapist for every human being in the world, regardless of fee or not.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
No, this is it. But this is scarcity thinking again, isn't it? You know?
Yes.
If you're terrified or frightened about money, every single inquiry you get feels precious.
Yes.
So you cling to it.
Yeah.
And you tolerate dynamics that you shouldn't.
100%.
You do,
done
because
that
you're so
for
desperate
sure.
for money that you will take any client because it's money. So you avoid making changes that would actually stabilize things long term.
Right. And I've done that myself. I will put my hands up and say I have.
I mean, I was going to say we all have, but I haven't.
The idea of you staying a second longer in something that's not serving you, ridiculous. Which is great for me because it models it. But anyway,
But I mean,
Go on.
It makes it sound as if I'm arbitrary, and
No.
I mean, I am to a degree.
Well, you just don't.
I know my
bullshit.
worth, and you're not getting it cheaply.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
Right. What's wrong with that? Nothing.
Nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
And the
All
kind
your
of,
viewers are therapist and therapy people. They're going to be clutching their pearls and horror and trauma, especially.
well, then
on
they
the
should
topic.
sign up to my course, and then they'll understand why it's so important.
This
we'll
is
break
it.
it all down. Because I do break it all down. I literally.
This wasn't
Anyway.
meant to be a
No,
plug for your course.
Well, it's going to be now. But
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, embrace it.
I mean, the irony is that when therapists sort out their relationship with money, their work often actually improves. So when we're talking about,
course
it's
it
not
does.
ethical and everything, actually,
Yeah.
is it unethical to not be charging as much as you should be? You know, as much as you're worth. Because they're clearer, calmer, less reactive. They're not stressed. They're not scanning for signs of a dropout or resentment, right? They are present because they're not worried about it.
Right. Because if you're worried about money, then you're not giving your client their full attention, you know?
Right.
And when you fix that, then the background noise of all of this has stopped, you know? Financial anxiety is very much like having a radio playing faintly in the background all of the time. Now, the thing is, you might think that you're ignoring it, but it's draining your attention. You're
Right.
still conscious of it.
Right. If there's one thing I wish therapists would understand a lot earlier, is that charging properly isn't something you do to clients. You're not, you know, it's something you do for the work. You're
Right.
not doing it to them. It's what
No, you're not. Like,
means
you're not
that-
punishing your clients by
No.
charging the right fees.
it keeps the frame intact. It keeps you resourced enough to think, reflect, show up properly. That's it.
And the thing is, if you want a very unromantic behavioural takeaway,
How
it's
unlike
actually
you.
this. I know, right? I normally wrap things in empathy and fluffy white
sugarcoat
clouds
and
and stuff like that. Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
it's not like me to talk directly and destroy people's bubble of security. The thing is that systems that don't support the people inside them, which is the therapists,
Yes,
eventually degrade the quality of what they produce.
absolutely.
You know? And therapy, regardless of how much therapists want to think this, is not exempt from that law.
No, money doesn't corrupt therapy. You know,
No, it
avoiding it does. Avoiding corrupt it will, but, you know, or at least it quietly kind of warps it over time, perhaps. But it does, for sure.
Which I suppose is a bit less dramatic, but far more common.
Yeah, but much harder to fix once it's embedded.
Yeah. The thing, but you're right, it's still easier than most people think once they actually stop pretending that it's a moral failing rather than a practical skill that they were never actually thought, you know?
Well, exactly. It's learnable. Awkward at first,
is
a bit like
learnable,
walking,
yeah.
right? And then surprisingly ordinary, like riding a bike.
Right, like most adult conversations that we avoid until they become absolutely unbearable. And as a therapist, that's why they need you.
Right. Anyway, on that cheerful note, I think maybe it's a good place to stop.
It is, because
we
it'll descend
rage bait
into
you
rage
even
bait
more.
now at this stage. Yeah, exactly. All right. See you later.
Bye.